Hello and welcome to this new video, and today it's finally time to publicly release the DeathRun plugin that you've seen so many times in my Hive DeathRun private server videos. So you can play any map that your heart desires. Since there are always a lot of questions about how I play these maps and how this all works, I will give you a full rundown today, show you how you can set up your own localhost Minecraft server, and how to configure it to play DeathRun on it. I will put all the relevant links in the description, but as you can see here, I'm in my Discord, and I've put the relevant links down here too, so you can follow along with this tutorial if you want. Before we begin with all of this localhost setup, I would like to make you aware of an issue that we've discovered recently with hosting a localhost server. Unfortunately, when you're running the game on the same machine that you're running the server on, the server sometimes has trouble keeping up and the TPS will drop. TPS means ticks per second, and essentially if these TPS are lower than 20, which is the regular amount, your server will lag a little bit. This is especially bad for DeathRun because it will mess with certain things like the strafe timer and with jump boost and speed boost effects. So if you have any possibility at all to host the server on a different machine, maybe you've got an old laptop running around, the machine doesn't have to be powerful, I recommend doing all of this setup stuff on there and then joining the server from another machine. That's not to say that you cannot run the server on the same machine as the game. It will still work, it might just be a little laggy sometimes. First up, this plugin is made to run on a Minecraft 1.12.2 server, since this is the native version that all of the maps were built on, or at least the latest version that maps were built on. And it's also configured to run using a system called Paper. This is basically just a Minecraft server architecture that makes a lot of optimizations and also makes plugin development a little bit easier. And to get this, you just have to click this link, and we will get the latest version here and download that into our downloads folder. Since DeathRun is usually played using strafes, I'm also going to download the strafes plugin made by Gargant, one of the developers for the randomcraft/revive server. I mean, if you want the full DeathRun experience, you're going to need these strafes. So let's open that up. I recommend you get the version 1.3.4 here, since the later versions are mostly centered around newer Minecraft versions, and this one works really well on 1.12.2. Next up, we have the available maps that you can play. I have set up a GitHub repository, and in this releases tab, you can find this zip archive called DeathRun Maps 1.0. You can go ahead and download that, and it will download all the available DeathRun maps that are playable with the first version of my plugin. So if we now look into our downloads folder, we can actually see the archive we just downloaded and open it up, and these are all the maps that are currently playable with my plugin. This includes all the old Hive maps, of course. It actually also includes the randomcraft/revive maps, and maybe even a couple maps that you've never seen before. So just go ahead and explore this a little bit. All of these maps are going to be playable. And of course, finally, we're going to need the DeathRun plugin itself, which you can find all the way at the bottom here. Discord might give you a potentially dangerous download message here, but don't worry, I'm not going to try to install malware on your PC. This is actually the real version of the DeathRun plugin. So let's go ahead and download this as well. Now, there is one more thing that we'll need. Since Minecraft Java Edition is obviously based on Java, as you can tell from the name, you're going to need a Java version installed on your PC to actually run a localhost server. I'm going to put this download link in the description, of course. And when you download this, it's important that you use this third link right here. These downloads up here are actually 32-bit versions of Java, which heavily restrict how much RAM you can allocate to the server later, and it's much better to use the 64-bit version of this. So just go ahead and download this and follow the instructions there. Since I've already done that, I'm going to skip this step. So now that we've got everything we need together in this folder, we can start setting up the localhost server. I'm just going to create this right here in my downloads folder, but you of course can create this anywhere. I'm going to create a new folder for this, call it localhost, and first things first, we're going to drag this paper file in here. Now we're going to rename this just so it's a little bit easier to handle during setup, but of course what you call this file is completely up to you. Next up, we're going to create a new text file And we're going to call that start.txt. And we're going to go ahead and open it up. So once we're in here, you want to type in Java. This should not be capitalized. Jar paper.jar. If you've not renamed your paper file, this paper.jar should match what you've got in here exactly. So this is basically us telling it what to run. There are a couple of extra flags you can give in here. One thing I like to do is give the server some RAM or some parameters for the RAM it can use. So let's say XMS 2G and XMX 4G. What this does is it assigns the server 2 GB of heap memory initially, and it gives it a maximum of 4 GB. Of course, if you have a little bit less RAM, for example, my PC has 32 GB of RAM, so this is not really a problem. Maybe if you have a little bit of a less strong machine, you should assign a little bit less. So now we can go ahead and save that. And now you want to rename this extension here. We don't want this to be a txt file anymore. We want to rename this to BAT. It's going to give you a little warning, but you can just hit yes there. If you don't actually see this extension, you might have to go here to actually go over here to file extensions. So this is going to be in viewing and then file extensions right here. This menu is in German, of course, but it should be the same everywhere. And if you turn this off, you will actually not see this. So you have to turn this on, and then you can also rename it and change the file extension. All right, now that we've done that, we can actually hit start right here. And it's going to start up our Minecraft server, downloading some stuff. And then it's going to instantly fail, but that's completely normal and completely fine. What you have to do, actually, is you have to accept the EULA. This is basically just a license agreement between you and Mojang. And if you're going to go ahead and here, you can also read the EULA if you want. It's right here. You just need to change this false to true. Go ahead and save that file. Close it up again. And then you can just restart the server. So now that we've done that, we've actually got a Minecraft server running on our machine. That's great, but to actually play DeathRun on it, we have to do a couple more things. To stop the server, you can just type stop in here, and the server will shut down. So let's refresh this. And now you can see we've got world, world nether, and world the end. This is just the standard world file that the server uses to start. But we actually want to play the DeathRun maps. So how do we change that? Well, we've got this beautiful folder right here. So let's start with a random map. I really like the map Riviera, so let's find that really quick. There it is. Copy that. Go back to our localhost and paste that in here. Now this is a zip file, so before we do anything, we have to actually extract this. So let's do that. Now that it's done extracting, we can see it down here. DeathRun Riviera. We have that as a folder now. That's great. Let's delete the zip file. We don't need that anymore. And now to change the world, we actually have to enter the server.properties file. This just has a bunch of settings for your server that you can change however you want to. But the important setting that we're going to look at is the level name. So the level name is currently set to world, which just tells the server to start this level when we start the server. But we actually want to start Riviera, so we're going to change that to DR Riviera. We can change a couple of other things here. I recommend, for example, changing the difficulty to 0. This just makes it so that monsters don't spawn. And I also recommend changing allow nether to false, because that makes it so that you can't actually enter the nether when you're going through portals, because portals are often part of DeathRun. So you have to also go ahead and save this file. This is important. And now there's one more thing we need to do. You can see that there's a plugins folder right here. Currently that's empty, except for that bstats folder. That's always going to generate. But of course, we actually want to use my DeathRun plugin and also the Strafes plugin. So let's quickly go ahead and select both of these and drag them into the localhost. And of course, it doesn't just need to be within localhost, it needs to be actually within the plugins folder. So let's select them again and drag them into the plugins folder. Okay, now that they're in there, perfect. Now we can go ahead and start the server again. And this time it will actually start Riviera with the DeathRun plugin and the Strafes plugin. Another quick tip I can give here, oftentimes the server, or when you start a new world, a lot of things will break immediately. So to prevent that from happening, you should immediately run the command game rule random tick speed 0 and game rule do fire tick false. This makes it so fire can't spread, so your blocks can't burn away. And it also random tick speed makes it so that nothing can grow anymore, and also no block updates happen anymore, which means that things like plants floating in the air, some maps do that as decoration, are not going to break immediately when you start the map. Okay, but now that we've done that, we can actually start Minecraft and look at this in-game. So now that we're actually in Minecraft, we can finally join the server. As you can see, it already displays right here, and all you have to do to get that server, to get a server like this for yourself, is to create a new server and add localhost in the server address. That's all you need to do. This works because this is still running in the background. Now we can join this, and as you can see, we are now on the server. And this actually is the map Riviera, as you can tell right here. Two things you're going to notice. You immediately see this reset item and this players shown item. This is part of my plugin. These items are always going to be there for you on startup. So, and you can probably guess what this reset item actually does. When you click it, you get actually teleported back to the start. And if we were actually on a run now, this would actually also reset us. I'm going to show you that later in a second as well. So before we actually start doing anything, let's do one more setup thing. To do that, we need the console again. So let's look at that right here. We are going to run the command op how to GHP, since that's my in-game name. And this is going to make me a server operator. What that means is I can now run commands like game mode 1. And now I can fly around. This is just really useful to be able to fly around whenever you want. You can change something, you can place blocks, and more importantly, you actually cannot use the Strafes plugin if you are not a server operator. You may have seen earlier, I got this message, you cannot do that with the prefix strafes. That was actually because I tried to run the command /strafes, and it didn't let me do that because I was not a server operator. How did I run the command /strafes? Well, whenever I hit the reset item, my strafes are actually reset automatically. So right here, you can see I have now received the strafes. If I would use one of those now, hit the reset item, and we've got fresh strafes again. But that only worked because I'm now a server operator. This visibility item, of course, that would disable other players, so you could no longer see any other players if there were any. Unfortunately, I have no friends, so I'm on the server alone, so this item actually does nothing. But it is a nice feature to have. So now that we've gone through all that, let's go back to game mode, not 23, 2, and let's actually start a map. To start a map, you only have to run the command /start and then the map name after it. You can only really start the map that you're on. So if I want to start, let's say, Western, let's try that. That is not the correct map because I am not on the map Western. So I can't start that. But I can start the map Riviera, so let's do that, /start Riviera. And you can see the glass wall is spawned in. I get a countdown, and the glass disappears. And now I actually have a working DeathRun timer. You can see that at the bottom. And this will keep counting up. Now, obviously, I can run through this map like normal. I can use strafes like normal. These are currently set to 20-second cooldown. I can show you in a second how to change that as well. So obviously, if you want to play real DeathRun, you would have to set this to 59 seconds. But before we do that, I want to show you a couple of other things. For example, we've got a jump boost pad right here. And this is actually going to work because my plugin sets up jump boost and speed pads on all the maps like normal, so you can actually use those. Currently, there are a couple of exceptions to this. For example, on this map itself, there's a jump boost pad that's actually not set up because the speedrunning route doesn't use that regularly. I plan on adding this in the future, but for now, this is actually not part of it. Right. So I'm going to go to the very end really quickly to show you another feature. So upon reaching the end of the map, we can, of course, enter the finishing portal. And now we finish the map. And it, of course, correctly displays your final time with the correct decimals. And it tells me this was your first run on this map. So now if I start the map again, I get teleported there. And of course, now that we've actually got a personal best, we can see the real death run timer with the nice green dots that will turn yellow later. We can actually just run compared to our PB now. And if we beat that PB, it's going to, of course, update that. Now, as an example, really quickly, I will show you this is the jump boost that's actually not set up for now. So you can't use that right now because this jump boost is actually not used in the speedrunning route. Another thing you might want to change, of course, is the strafes cooldowns. To do that, let's do /strafes cooldowns. And now I can update these. So currently they're set to 20 seconds. So let's add 10, 10 again, 10 again, 10 again. Now we're at 60, so let's subtract 1, and now we're at 59. Great. So now if we use one of these strafes, it's a 59-second cooldown. Perfect. Another thing you might be interested in, now that we're on a run, let's say, oh no, I hit this corner. Well, that's too bad. I don't want to do this run anymore. This kind of sucked anyway. Let's reset. So now we're back to the start. We have all our strafes reset and the timer is stopped. So now if we want to restart the map, just do /start Riviera again. And we're right back in it. And ouch. Okay, I hit the glass. But we're right back in it and we can start a new run. So one more thing I'd like to show you. Let's say you get bored of Riviera. Riviera is a boring map to run all the time. I get that. You want to play another map. So let's change the map really quickly. To do that, we actually have to go back to the console and stop the server using stop. You can actually also do this in the game. Now that we're an operator, we can run commands. So let's just run /stop. And then the server closes. Let's go back to our server. And let's go back here and actually select another map. Let's say we want to run Sonic. How about that? So paste that in here. And extract it, because we actually need a normal folder. Now that that's here, remember what we did earlier? We opened the server.properties file. We located the level name variable. And let's change that. Whoops. Didn't mean to do that. And to the exact name the Sonic world file has. In this case, hivemc_eu space Sonic. As you can see right here, that's the actual level name. So now that we've got that, let's restart our server. And once again, game rule, random tick speed 0. Game rule, do fire tick false. You should do that whenever you start a map immediately so nothing breaks. So now we can see that the server is back. So let's join the server again. Ooh, look at that. Now we've got Sonic. And we spawn in a pretty random place. So let's just reset really quickly. Sometimes on a few maps, there will be this leftover glass. You can just go ahead and punch that out. That will sometimes happen even on checkpoints like this. That's a bit annoying, but that's just how the world download came. And there's nothing we can do about that. So you can just quickly get rid of these. And as you can see here, I was a bit too late already. This fire, or this lava, is right next to wood. So that, of course, burns pretty easily. Some of the beams have already disintegrated, unfortunately. So I was even too slow with typing game rule do fire tick false. But basically, this is what you're going to need to do if you want to have a full working map. But of course, we don't want to just look around. Let's actually play the map. So reset back to the start. Maybe go in game mode 2 for that. And let's do /start Sonic. And of course, that works as well. So now we can run this map. And of course, the jump boost works in this case. And you can, of course, do this for any of the maps that are currently playable with the plugin. I plan on adding more maps in the future if I get more. So keep an eye out for the releases page on my GitHub, since I might release some new maps there in the future. Wait a minute. This is a great run. I'm just talking over here and getting a relatively clean run while we're doing this. This is my first attempt, by the way. Let's just check what this is. Okay, that's funny. So, of course, you can play whichever map your heart desires out of all the maps that are given to you. And you can customize this to whatever you want, of course. So let's say you don't want to play with strafe cooldowns of 59 seconds. You can, of course, customize this to whatever you want. But let's say, for example, let's say we do /start Sonic, and then we mess around a little bit. We go into game mode 1, and we fly around a little bit, and we're like, oh, wait, this is the end. Let's fly to the end real quick. Let's go into the portal here. Oh, and now we just finished Sonic in 8 seconds. Now, this is, of course, a bit unfortunate, because now, whenever we start the game, our personal best is going to show up as 8 seconds. So that sucks a little bit. So I'm never going to beat this again, unfortunately. But of course we can fix that. My plugin contains a native way to actually reset your personal best on a map. To do that, we can do PBs reset Sonic. Now it asks you to confirm in case you're just mistyped something. So we can do PBs reset confirm. And now our PB on Sonic has been reset. When we start this again, we can see that we no longer have a PB here. So that's pretty cool. Now, of course, we might not just want to reset our PBs. We might actually want to look at them and see what they actually are. So there's another command for that. You can just run /PBs. And that's actually going to display a list of all your personal bests. Unfortunately, I have not really run any maps since I just created the server. But I did run Riviera a little bit ago. So let's see if we can find that. Oh, it might be on the other page. There it is. Your personal best on Riviera, 147.265. And of course, if you were to run all kinds of different maps, you would find all of your PBs within there. Now let's go through another possibility. Well, let's say I unfortunately cleared my inventory. That can happen. How do we get back to the start now? How do we reset our run? We can't really do that. We don't have to reset item anymore. Now, one thing you could do is disconnect and reconnect, because actually every time you reconnect you get these items again. But let's say I did it again and I don't want to reconnect. You can also, of course, run the command /refresh. The command /refresh is just there to give you back your items in case you ever lose them, or at least the reset item and the visibility item. And now you can reset a run. This is currently all the features that the plugin has to offer. You can play pretty much any map that has ever been released to DeathRun servers with this plugin. I plan on adding more maps in the future if I get access to them and if there are any more finished DeathRun maps. So make sure to check those out too. I hope this guide was a little bit understandable. I know it's sometimes a little bit tricky to set up a localhost server, and I know it's not the easiest thing to deal with. So I hope this helps. And I hope you enjoy playing DeathRun for whatever you want to use it. I think it's great that after so much time, people are still interested in the game and people still want to do something with it. And this was really kind of a passion project for me. And it's nice to actually still at least have a possibility to do this, even though it's now been almost 5 years since Hive is gone. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this plugin, and I hope to see some of you playing it in the future. Until then, have a great day. I hope you enjoyed this guide. See you in the next one.